Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you guys are new here. Now today's video is going to be a little bit informational, but I promise you I'm going to try my best not to make it boring. Today we're going to be talking about the super popular Marimo moss balls. Now it is very rare that someone has kept an aquarium or kept fish in general and not kept one of these moss balls. If you hear splashing, by the way, that's my turtle. He's splashing for some reason. But these Marimo moss balls are extremely popular. You can find them at almost any fish store. They come at PETSMART, PETCO. They're in little cups sometimes. Other times they're in the aquariums at the pet store. But they are just a super popular aquarium plant because they're very easy for beginners to grow. And they thrive with very little light. They usually only cost around $5 to $10, so they're generally pretty cheap as well. Another reason why they're so popular among beginning aquarists, even advanced aquarists. I have a couple around here, which we'll get to in a minute. But recently there has been a scandal with them, and that is that they're coming in contaminated. Yes, contaminated. So I received a long-winded email from Petco. We're going to dissect that in a minute because it is pretty bad actually. And I've also been getting information kind of from everyone here and there, different forums, Facebook groups, whatever. So I thought I would take all that information and throw it into one video so you guys kind of understand what's going on. So the basic premises is in Washington, they discovered some zebra mussels, which are basically an invasive clam almost, that was found inside of these moss balls. Because these moss balls do not come from the United States, they are imported, it's not an isolated issue, meaning it's not just one Petco or one PetSmart that's having this problem. It's across America, chain store, local store, whatever, anywhere that gets their moss balls pretty much from out of the United States is currently on watch for this issue. So what's happening is these zebra mussels are hiding inside of the moss balls. Once the aquarists get them home and put them in their aquarium, those zebra mussels can go out of control. And they're not really a huge issue in captivity because that's very contained in an aquarium. They're an issue when they get into public lakes, rivers, basically anything outside of your home. They're extremely invasive and pose a ton of problems to natural wildlife. So there's a huge lockdown on moss balls right now, if you will, trying to prevent anything from getting outside of the aquarium. Now because these moss balls have a newfound pest, there's a lot of, rumors on how to get rid of it. However, we're just going to be touching on what Petco said today because it is their official recommendation. They are a vendor of these moss balls. So this is the email they sent out to warn everyone about this issue. Now from some other third-party research I did, I found that these zebra mussels actually are already here. They're already invasive. It's nothing new, if that makes sense. Now that's obviously saying that not every body of water in the world has these zebra mussels, but they're very much already apparent here in the US, so it's not like we're seeing them for the first time. So now while these zebra mussels are extremely harmful when they're introduced into natural bodies of water, they can outcompete other native species. What I've read and what I've researched is that the water that leaves your aquarium may be contaminated with eggs or even zebra mussels if you suck them up by a siphon and they end up going down your drain. If your water is treated, if you live near like a water treatment plant, I'm assuming most people do, as long as you're not like in the middle of nowhere on your own little whole septic thing. But the chemicals that these water treatment companies use definitely can kill off pretty much anything alive. That's like the whole point of a water treatment plant. So I wouldn't be worried about something going down the drain. I think the idea here is that you just don't want to release these moss balls or aquarium water into the environment. So as I mentioned, this is not an isolated issue. People across the nation are talking about opening up their moss balls and seeing these little zebra mussels inside of them. So it's definitely something to keep a watch for. However, as I mentioned, Petco, they took it 4 steps further actually, with sending this massive email. I will put it right here. But the email basically just talks about, there's a connection between the zebra mussels and the moss balls, basically stuff we've already known by now. Petco is offering a refund if you bought moss balls within the last 30 days. You're supposed to get rid of them and then go ahead and they'll give you a refund. Now the process they mention of killing the moss ball essentially is fine. They just say to freeze it and throw it away, which is easy enough. The issue I have is when it comes to the aquarium disinfection. So in my opinion, personally, now I'm not a wildlife expert, I would never follow these instructions, what I'm about to tell you. If you do have a contaminated moss ball, getting rid of it seems like as far as I would take this personally. However, Petco is urging people to go a little bit further, which in my mind is not going to solve any issues and is just going to make things worse. So they recommend basically to take your fish out of the aquarium, okay, house the fish with water in a separate location. They want you to drain your tank, all of the water, all your filter media, everything. They want you to clean everything with a bleach solution. So mixing water and bleach and disinfecting your entire aquarium. Not only will this kill any zebra mussels that are in there, this will also kill every little bit of beneficial bacteria in your aquarium. They then advise you to replace all your filter media, buy all filter media. They clearly want you to buy your filter media at Petco. Why would they recommend that otherwise? But they want you to buy all new filter media and then basically add all your sanitized decor, gravel, all that back to the aquarium, fill it up with water, and then introduce your fish again. Well, if you know anything about fish, you know that's not how this works. That essentially kills off the cycle in your aquarium. They have no mention of adding any bacteria supplement or anything like that to go ahead and make that cycle, you know, come back into play. So essentially what they're having you do is sterilize the aquarium, which in theory will kill off any zebra mussel pathogens. But if the zebra mussel eggs, I think is the worry here, are in the water that you have to completely drain, they're going to be in the water you house the fish with, which just means you're going to reintroduce them back into your aquarium. I'm not quite sure if they can take over an aquarium completely. From what I've heard, they are pretty easily managed just by removing the adults. That's what the article said. However, for some reason, Petco is urging everyone to go ahead and, you know, completely sanitize their tank. And even if the idea was sanitizing the tank in order to not allow any pathogens into your local water system, when you drain the water, that water's going somewhere. It's going either outside or down your drain. So really, this doesn't solve anything, which is kind of confusing. The only thing I really get from this is that they want you to sanitize your aquarium, kill off all your fish, because most people, if they have a successful aquarium, they're not going to keep bacteria starter on hand unless you have multiple aquariums. But if you just have a singular successful aquarium, it's pretty rare that you're going to be prepared to dismantle that entire aquarium and then recycle it as if it's brand new. So that means that likely all of your fish you have will slowly die off from ammonia poisoning if you don't set the aquarium up and cycle it the correct way, which the email mentions nothing about cycling your aquarium. So if you follow their instructions just step by step, pretty much all of your fish will die if you just do exactly what they're telling you to do. That's why it's extremely important to do your own research and don't just blindly follow these companies. Technically, as I mentioned, if you follow the instructions, all your fish will die. You'll have to return to Petco to buy more fish. Not saying that's what they're trying to do, that's just how it can appear from an outsider's perspective. So basically the consensus here is if you've bought mothballs in the past couple months, go ahead, just be safe, get rid of them. Some people are opening them up and seeing nothing wrong and keeping them, but it is recommended if you did recently get mothballs to go ahead and stick them in your freezer to kill everything off and then just throw them away. Personally, I would never go as far as destroying my aquarium for a tiny little zebra mussel. However, if you see that as fit, more power to you. Just make sure you set up the aquarium in the correct way possible, just so your fish, you know, don't go from a happy, healthy, thriving aquarium to a bare bones sanitized aquarium. That's very stressful on them, and if it's not done correctly, they will definitely die off. So I hope that helped shed a little bit of light on the situation coming from an aquarist perspective rather than a corporation's perspective. That's my opinion on this whole thing. I do think necessary precautions do need to be taken in order to keep the environment safe with the disposing of these mothballs, but I personally, as I mentioned, will not go as far as tearing down my aquarium. But that is going to be pretty much it for this video. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. I'll also leave some articles down below, so if you do want to read a little bit more about the subject, you can go ahead and check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and goodbye.